All right, guys, welcome back to Jerk Block Talk. I'm Jason Fernandez. We're here at CrossFit Rife, and I'm here with MC Hall. And today, the topic for discussion is to demo or not to demo the movements when you're teaching class. The answer is yes, you need to be demoing the movement. It is one of the 6 criteria for which we evaluate a coach. So you need to be able to demonstrate the movement. Now, there's a couple of ways this can go wrong if you are coaching a class and you decide to demo. So I'm gonna go over a couple kind of pieces here, some do's and don'ts and some best practices when demoing the movement. So first and foremost, as a coach, you need to be able to demonstrate the movement. So you need to understand your own movement. And for instance, if I'm going to demo the air squat for everybody, and you were just hop off to the side here for a second, and you were to watch me squat, and I was coaching a class, and I said, hey, this is the air squat, right? That is clearly factually incorrect because that's not how we want people to air squat. So if you're one of those folks who has some issues with your movement, like most of us do, don't be afraid to identify those movements or those faults within your own movement. For instance, I have a prior injury in my left ankle. I had a ruptured Achilles, so occasionally when I squat, my left heel will come off the floor, and because I know that, I will point it out to the rest of the class so that they understand that that's not actually what I'm looking for. So first and foremost, know your own movement so that you can identify your own faults to the class so that people aren't looking at those essentially bad movements and thinking that's what they're supposed to be doing. Now, the second biggest fault that we'll see when coaches are demonstrating the movement is demonstrating and talking at the same time. For instance, if MC I'm just gonna have her demo the push press, and I'm gonna have her explain the push press as she goes through it at the same time.
All right, guys, so for the push press, I'm gonna dip and then drive overhead with that active shoulder. So I'm gonna dip and press overhead, coming back to my starting position, and that's the finishing part of the movement.
Okay, cool. So for instance, nothing that she said there was factually incorrect, but there's a couple things that might make this less than ideal. So there's basically 2 ways that people learn. The first one is going to be visual, and the second one is going to be audible. So what's going to happen is if you start blending those 2 learning styles, what you're going to end up doing is you're going to be leaving some people out, right? So essentially do one and then do the other, but try to avoid doing both. It's not to say that you can't do both. There's some instances where that's okay, but by and large, if she's going to teach the push press, I would like her to explain the push press and then demo the push press. So a better way to do it would be like this. So I would have her go through the movement, explain it first, and then demonstrate it. So go ahead and go through that real quick.
So the push press, guys, starting in the front rack position, finishing all the way overhead, arms fully locked out, and then back in the front rack. It's going to look like this.
Good, right? So that's a much better way to teach the movement. You're gonna tell them what you want them to do, then you're gonna demonstrate it without any words, and then you're gonna walk them back through it. So that's a much better way. So now I can catch both sets of people, whether they're audible learners or auditory learners or they're visual learners. I'm not gonna blend those 2, because what's gonna happen is if I'm talking while demonstrating, they're gonna be trying to process what I'm telling you. Especially if they're new folks and these are more complex movements, that's gonna be a lot for them to process. A dynamic movement in combination with all of the words that you're telling them and how to execute the movement. So try to avoid those or doing that when you demonstrate movement. It's a really big thing that I see with newer coaches. They're talking, demonstrating at the same time, and then you're losing people. And usually what's happening, the other thing that's happening there is if you're talking and demonstrating, you're probably not concentrating on your movement. So just take the 5 seconds to concentrate on your own movement, go through it, make sure it's good, and then talk about the points performance, but try not to do both. Now, if you're one of those folks where you just have some pretty big issues with your movement, and it's not uncommon, it's perfectly okay for somebody to be a great coach and not be the best mover. Those things don't have to be equal. If that's the case, there's some scenarios where I can take a good mover from the class and use them as the demo. If I know that my squat is just, quite frankly, a shit show, maybe that's not the best demo for the people to see. I want to take one of my better squatters from the class, use them as a demo, or a push press or something of that nature, and then I can use that person as my demonstration. But the premise still remains that I want to have the demo person move, and then I'm going to talk. Or I'm going to talk and then have them move. For instance, if I'm going to have MC be my demo, I know she's a good mover in our gym. What I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the points of performance in the setup, and I'm going to talk about the execution, and then I'm going to have her go through it so it would look like this. All right, guys, we're going to go over the push press. So let's talk stance and grip first. Feet are going to be directly underneath the hips. Our hands are going to be at a minimum outside of the shoulders when we bring it up to the rack position. From there, what I want to see is at a minimum, index fingers outside the shoulders, elbows slightly forward of the bar, tight midline. Now, when MC executes this movement, she's going to do a dip, a drive, and then a press, and it's going to look like this. Good. So that one was at slow motion, everybody. Now we're going to do one at speed. Same thing at speed. Good, right? Now, I talked about it, I explained it, and then I demoed it. Now, once you've laid that out for everybody, if you want to talk about some specifics, now you can break the movement down. For instance, the push press has progressions. Now I can layer this on top of that. I wouldn't want to talk about the progressions while doing them. I would have MC do it, and I said, first thing we're going to do is we're just going to work on the dip and drive here, or the dip and hold, excuse me. So I just want MC to dip and hold, and dip and hold. Good. Now I can point some things out to people. What we're looking for, everybody, in the dip and hold is the shoulder stacked over the hip with the bar still in the rack position, and then stand back up. And now I'm not overloading people. Go ahead and relax. I'm not overloading people with, having them watch a dynamic or complex movement while me giving them information. Remember, do one, then the other, and then after that, maybe you can do a little bit of both. But by and large, try to avoid talking and doing your demonstration at the same time. And as always, you as a coach should be kind of leading by example, working on your movement all the time, so that way when you do get in front of a group, you can demonstrate good movement. If you move like crap, it kind of hurts your credibility a little bit, so you should always be working on that. So you're always striving to be a good mover so that you can walk in front of a class, demo good movement, and give people a good example of what's supposed to be happening. Your end state goal is that all of the coaches in your gym should be, in a perfect world, the best movers, although it's not going to always be the case. That kind of should be the goal. So remember, guys, demonstration is a key piece of being a good coach. Just don't demo and explain what you're doing at the same time. You have a lot more time than you think. Just tell them what you want to happen, demonstrate it, and then go into some of the details on some of that stuff. So if you have any questions about that stuff, guys, please put it in the comments. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.